Hey everybody, Scott from What You Seek, and today I am going to be looking at the Brellum Duobox Pandial. So this is a Swiss company. They sell directly to consumers via their website, and this is the Duobox collection, and it gets its name because of the box crystal not only on the top, but on the bottom, and I'll get into that as we go through the review. So it's kind of a unique design with having that shape of that box crystal on both the top and the bottom. They also have different colorways. So they have a silver type of a pattern. I think they have a blue. This is a black with silver here. So it's a really nice, kind of a classic mid-century looking chronograph. So this chronograph is based on a 7750 movement. And I've mentioned the 7750 in the past and maybe not really explaining a little bit about what the movement is. The 7750 movement is a movement that first came out in 1974, and it is really one of the most common mechanical chronograph movements that is used in watches today. So many different manufacturers have used this movement either in its stock form or modifying it in some way. So I mean, like IWC, Tudor, Panerai, Hublot, Tag Heuer, and on and on and on. It'd probably be easier to say which brands have not used the 7750 movement than to say which ones have. But needless to say, it is a robust movement and it is a fairly affordable movement. So you will see this in a wide variety of price ranges of watches. So let's get into the specifics of this chronograph, the Duobox Pandial. So the case diameter here is 42, so that's what the manufacturer says. And if you measure from side to side here, yes, it is indeed 42. But if you look at this top piece, let's see if I can get a little closer here. This little part here, this bezel, it sits a little proud. So not much, it's only, about 1.5 millimeters. So realistically, if we're looking at the diameter straight down, it's a little over 43 millimeters. The height is 16 millimeters. So that is just par for the course with the 7750. The movement is a tall movement. There's really no way around that. So Lug To Lug here, we have about 52 millimeters. We have a strap width of 22 millimeters. So very easy to put a wide variety of straps on here. So this watch is made out of stainless steel and it is mainly a brushed look to it. So we do have some areas where we do have some high polishing here. So on the lugs, we have a bevel and that's polished in there on each lug. And then on the side of the watch, the case here, we have this main part, this is brushed, and then on the bottom, you can see we have a polished part right in there. And then this top part of the case, move a little closer, this has a bevel to it, and the bottom side of that bevel has some polishing. So when you look at the side of the case, you can see how the light is reflecting between the brush surfaces and the polished surfaces. Nice touch. It does have a water resistance of 50 meters. And like I mentioned before, the top, the sapphire crystal on the top here, and the back are a box crystal. And what that is you can see here, see how proud that, let's see if I can get even closer. Will it focus? Yes, it will. So you can see how that crystal goes up and then over. And it also, I don't know if you can see, there's a slight dome to that crystal. Not much, just a nice gentle curve on the top. And then on the bottom, on the exhibition case back, we have the same type of a thing where there's a box crystal going up over the back so you can see the movement in there. So if we look at the crown here, so we have a nice crown. Let's see if I can get a little closer here. Will it focus? There's some nice engraving on there with a pattern. I don't know, it's almost like a snowflake or some some arrows on there, but it's kind of nice. I like that. The pushers here, these are both polished pushers, so it kind of contrasts with the brushing on the case here. These are standard chronograph pushers, nothing extraordinary. They're easy to push. The crown is nice, easy to pull out on that guy and grab and wind. So the 7750 movement, which I mentioned earlier, it is an automatic movement, but you can also wind that up. So on the top of the case here, we have a tachymeter scale that goes around the outside, and I believe this feels and looks like it's aluminum. It's a matte aluminum with this silver printing on there. So that's a nice touch. The strap, it comes on a brown leather, and on their website they do have some different options. I believe they have a metal bracelet as well as some different leather options. This is a nice strap, brown strap with some contrast stitching on there. It does come with a deployant clasp, and I do like the finishing on this deployant here. So you have some nice perlage on there. It's pretty cool. You'll never see it that way, but let's see if when you go in there. I love the contrast with that perlage and then the brushing on there. It is signed on the bottom. We've got the Brellum double push button here to release the deployant. So very nice. I like the touch with the finishing on the deployant. So here's the back of the case. So look at that rotor go. Funny, I don't know if it's funny, but it's pretty cool. The 7750 only winds in one direction. So the rotor only winds the movement if it moves clockwise. So there's resistance, right? It's winding up that mainspring as it turns. So the other direction, anti-clockwise, it will fly all day. You can get it. Let's see if I can do like the Seiko wind here. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So when you're wearing it, you almost, if somebody put a 7750 on my wrist and I just started moving around and kind of bring it up to my ear, you can hear that rotor just freewheeling around. And so that's kind of a telltale sign of a 7750. If we look at the back of the case, we do have some engraving with some details about the watch here. We have a serial number. Well, the lights are kind of bright. It's hard to see. We got that in there. The movement is nicely finished. You can see all that perlage on there. This is a custom rotor, a chronometer, officially certified. So a chronometer, this has been sent out, and it is a COSC certified, a COSC certified 7750. So that means that it has to be within, what's my numbers? I think it's +4 -6. I will put that on there. I can't remember. But what that means is that manufacturers will send out their watch to an independent agency, and they certify that your movement is within a certain tolerance. I mean, Breitling does it, Rolex, and on and on and on. And looking at the rotor back here, it's nicely finished. You have some Geneva stripes, but here that's a wyvern, so that's part of the logo from Brellum. It's a little dragon-like mythical animal there. So cool touches. Definitely not a stock 7750 from behind. So now let's look at the dial. I mentioned that we have the tachymeter on the outside here on this outer bezel, and then inside, let's see if I can get close enough. You can see there we have a telemeter scale. So a tachymeter will tell you the speed you are traveling in between two markings. So let's say we have a mile marker, a marker at the beginning of the mile and a marker at the end of the mile, and I'm driving through. Well, if it took me, whatever this is, roughly 9 seconds to travel that distance, I'm going 400 miles an hour. If those two markers are kilometers, then I'm going 400 kilometers. So it's just a way to time something moving between two marked points. Now the telemeter scale, this is kind of fun. I was using this the other day. We had a thunderstorm here. So I start the chronograph. So here, let's So there's the chronograph. I'm going to reset. So that's the stop start. This is the reset. So I see the flash of lightning. Boom, I push that. And then when I hear the thunder, and bam, I hear the thunder, you can see there's a little scale there, and that says 1 kilometer, and that's 2 kilometers. So roughly the storm, or wherever that lightning originated from, is 2 kilometers away. So it's kind of cool. I mean, obvious uses for that in the military, right? You see the flash of the cannon across the hill, and then you listen for the concussion of the firing of that cannon, and you get an idea of how far that is from you. So pretty cool. It's neat. Usually you see a telemeter or a tachymeter, but I don't normally see both. So nice touch. So moving in from the telemeter, we have markings here at 60, 15, 30, and 45. And those are the only numbers that we're going to see around the dial. The rest are applied markers. So we have one at 2 and 3 and so on around here. So we have 8 applied markers. And those markers, you can see we have a loom triangle on the other side, and then we have a little loom dot at the front of that little applied marker there. So I'll get a loom shot, but the 60, these numbers, these are loomed, and then that arrow and then that little square in here, that is loomed as well. So we've got the logo here and some text. We've got their logo, and then we have our subdial. So this is the 30-minute counter for the chronograph, and this is the 12-hour counter for the chronograph, and then we have the date hidden inside the subdial right here. And I like the way that is, the date wheel is white with black printing on there. It really blends in. A lot of times on the 7750, you see the date over here. In some cases a day date, depending on the version. But I like the way it's kind of tucked into there. And then over here, we have the time running seconds with a different dial layout from the chronograph. We get this kind of a sector dial here with a white hand. These are black hands. And then the chronograph, these are polished hands with, the chronograph, the time. So here's the hours and the minutes. This is a polished hand with loom in the middle. So a lot going on. I like the balance of the dial. So I like the way the date is hidden in here. And then this text here kind of balances from this here. So we have a vertical kind of a strong line, if you will, of what's going on here. So easy to read. When I start the chronograph here, we have a white tip on this chronograph seconds hands here. Sometimes these hands, they get lost. It's hard to see sometimes, but you just turn your hand a little bit and they're reflective and they're going to catch the light, and then you can instantly see where things are going. Because sometimes if this hand is over a subdial that's silver, the hands are silver, it's sometimes hard to see. So that's the dial layout. Let's get this on the wrist. Oh, and I don't think I mentioned the black here, this black dial material. It is a matte black, and there is a little bit of a texture to it. You really have to get close in to see the texture, either with a loop or get pretty close. These subdials have a radial pattern to them. The chronograph subdials, the circular pattern in here is pretty coarse. Think of it like a corduroy. And then there is a circular pattern on the running seconds, and that's really fine. I didn't even know it was there until I was looking at it under a loop. So here we go. So here's the Brellum Duobox Pandial on my wrist. So you've heard me mention a few times that this is a 7750. It's a tall movement, so you can see how high that sits on the wrist. I will say that this is quite comfortable, and let me explain how or why I feel that this is pretty comfortable. The lugs curve down. So let's see, can we see that? So you can see that the lugs are curving down here. So the strap is allowed to go straight down. But if you look and see what's going on, I'll get this here. See how this case really curves underneath? And then, like I mentioned, it's the duo, right? Because there's a box crystal on the top and the bottom. That box crystal that is on your wrist, I measured it with my calipers. It's under 30 millimeters across that's actually sitting on the wrist. So there is a lot of air, if you will, moving underneath the watch and around the watch. So you don't have this big slab, this 43 millimeter slab flat on your wrist. So actually quite comfortable. Now, because it's tall, you're gonna have a hard time fitting it under a tight fitting cuff, but no big deal. It's a sport chronometer, right? I mean, it's not a dress watch. The strap here, it's a nice beefy strap. It's comfortable. It hugs my wrist nice. The deployant, it's a very comfortable deployant. So all in all, wearing comfort for a watch that's this tall, thumbs up. I definitely liked it. So if I had to nitpick on something, what would I change on this? Maybe the text here, all these lines of text, maybe take that away. That's their logo with the wyvern there. I don't know if you can see it. It's right in there. So that's that mythical character. I don't know. I'm not really sure if I like it there. It's just part of it. It's polished and sometimes it reflects light, and is that a marker or not? I'm just nitpicking on that. That's about it. What do I like about it? I love the crystals. I really do. I like to see companies, we're seeing a lot of these lately. It's just the way it distorts the case right on the edge, and this nice, just ever so slight dome to it. It's a pretty cool crystal. And then the back, the way that has the box crystal. And like I just previously mentioned, the wearing comfort of that crystal, it's so smooth, and the way it just sits on your wrist, really quite comfortable. I like the date, how it's hidden there at 6 o'clock. So in that subdial. So what's my takeaway on this Brellum Duobox Pandial in the black version? Well, I like it. I think it's kind of fun, and it's unique. I mean, there are so many 7750 derived chronographs out there. So the manufacturers, these brands, they have to do something that makes them stand out a little bit. And I believe that this crystal, the box crystal on both the top and the bottom, is pretty unique. It gives a nice comfort factor on wearing that very smooth box crystal on the back. Has a pretty cool design with the mid-century panda dial aesthetic. And like I mentioned earlier, they have different versions. So this is the black, there is a silver white version, and even a blue version. So it is nicely decorated. That movement is going to stand out a little bit from your normal, just run-of-the-mill 7750 movement. And of course, it's COSC certified. So the COSC certification certainly adds value to this watch. And so the price for this watch is 2,490 Swiss francs. Now, that includes the Swiss VAT. If it is being exported out of Switzerland, you can save 7.7%. So that brings this down to 2,312 Swiss francs. So once again, this is the Brellum Duobox Pandial in black. Hey, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to leave comments below and subscribe. Thanks for watching.